So that's 2 steps forward and 1 step back yet again. So as luck would have it, I did take these buckets and shims with me when I replaced the camshaft. No camshafts were harmed in the making of this video. While on holiday, I will be visiting Silverstone for the Ford show there. So if anybody sees me there, come up, say hello. Hi there guys, welcome to another episode. As you've seen in my last video, she's running. I'm really happy. I've been out for a drive. It's wonderful to drive. I love it. There's a couple of things that are annoying me still, and there's a couple of things that are annoying you guys as well, because you've told me about it in the comments. So we're going to address a couple of problems, and they are noise issues. So I'm going to start under the car, and I'm going to start with the pumps. A lot of people, including myself, have been annoyed at the fact that the pumps make such a big noise. I think you can see the low pressure pump there is bolted directly to the floor. There is a piece of rubber in between it, but it's still bolted directly to the floor and it's making a lot of noise. So what I bought is a set of these rubber cushions, grommets, whatever. Now in hindsight, I probably could have gone a bit thicker on this and had one with a thread in the top. So you put a bolt in through the top into the rubber. I didn't really want to lower the pumps too much, so that's why I went for these quite short ones, but then they've got a really long thread. Now, and as the thread comes up underneath the back seat, I need to fit it, and then I need to chop off the top part of the bolt so it doesn't stick up too much. Downwards doesn't really matter too much, but upwards is going to be a bit of a problem, so I'll need to cut that. I'll put a link to these below. I bought them off of Amazon. They were dirt cheap, came really quickly. And I think they're going to do the job. I think they're going to allow the pump to just vibrate without putting it through the chassis. So we're going to take off the plate. Oh, that's the other thing. I riveted this plate in place, which is fine, because I didn't think I'd be taking it off. But now I'm going to take it off. I'm going to take these out of the way, and I'm going to put pop nuts there instead, so that I can, or riv nuts or pop nuts or whatever you call them, so that I can unscrew this plate if and when I need to. So I'm going to drill out these rivets, put pop nuts in there, and then I'll be able to undo that if I need to, again, to get to anything for any reason. So if you've never used a pop nut before, these are what they look like. These ones are made of aluminium, and you can get them in steel and stainless steel and all sorts of things, but they've got a thread in them there, which is an M6 thread in my case. And you fit these into the bulkhead and you kind of squash them basically. You put a tool on this end of it, and then you put it in the hole and you squash it together. You kind of put it together and it collapses here against the metal. So this is the tool that you use for it. You can change these heads out for different types of heads, depending on whether you're using what thread size you're using. I'll screw that onto there. So it goes all the way to the bottom like that. Then when you squeeze the tool together, it'll crumple here around the metal in the bodywork. Once you've done that, you've got this end of it is a left-hand thread. So once you've crimped it, you'll have a bit of play and you'll be able to unthread it then, and a left-hand thread, and that'll leave that left in there. I'll show you. That's the tool all nice and ready for it. It now fits in that hole, like so, and all you do is press it, squeeze it together, like that. Then when I release it, as you can see, there's a bit of a gap there now, so it means I can then unthread the tool, and there we go. So now we've got an M6 thread. Got 2 more to do. Right, so that's 4 there, and then the 3, and then the 3 at the back there. So that's now enough, probably more than enough to hold that little aluminium plate in place, but it's there. So now I'm going to undo the pumps, and these are bolted through the floor, so I have to get somebody to hold the top side of it while I undo it, and then I'm going to put the rubbers in and then re-bolt it back up again. Right, so I've put these bobbins in there. The bobbins fitted there. I did decide to leave the thick rubber piece that I've got there. I thought it'll give it a bit more extra cushioning, so now that pump can wobble and vibrate. I think that's going to be alright. And the same with the high pressure pump, that can now wobble around, and I think that'll take up the vibrations. But I can put the plate back in there and test it. No, I'm kidding, you can still hear the pumps, but it's not as bad as it used to be. It's a lot better. So the next thing that's been annoying me and everybody else that listens to this car is the ticking noise, and I think it's coming from the valves. I think it's coming from the tappets underneath the camshaft and above the valves. So I'm going to take the rocker cover off. I'm going to measure them all first and see what they're like, and then compare it to the data that I've got to find out what size they should be, and if they need adjusting, I'll try and adjust them. Right, so the way I'm measuring these is I need to get each one of these lobes. So the top of the cam there is 180 degrees from the top of the valve, so there's the biggest gap underneath the valve and the bottom of the cam. And to turn this round, all I've done is a bit old school, like I used to do when we did Fiesta and Escort tappets back on the old engines that used to fit in these. Put a battery under that wheel, put the car in 4th gear, take all the plugs out, and then I can simply turn this wheel and all the cams move. Till I get round to these cam lobes. So we're looking at these two here now. So that is now 180 degrees away from that, and I can now measure the gap underneath that cam. Right, so I've got this book from, it's from 1998, as you can see, and it's from when I was working as an apprentice at Ford, and it's got loads of information in it, and one of the things it's got in it is the Mondeo 97, the 2-litre NGB engine. The inlet valves need to be 0.15 and the exhaust 0.3. So that's what I can now measure those to. Now bearing in mind the exhaust side should be 0.30. Some of these are terrible. There's only like number 5 and number 6, which is number 3 cylinder, that are anything close to what they should be. Some of them are absolutely massive, and number 1 is ginormous. So I've got a lot of adjustment to do on this now. So what I'm going to do now is measure the inlet side and write down all the measurements for them. So in this set I've got them divided up. So I've got 0.50, 0.55, 0.6, 0.65, 0.7, 0.75. So I can put them in and test when they get tight and when they get too tight. Then they've even got smaller blades, so I can put in, let's say we've got a 0.5 there, and I add 0.003, then I'll know that that is 0.53, for example. So I'm going to go across all of these and measure all of these now. So that's now the inlet side done, and they're also terrible. Bearing in mind there should be 0.15, most of them, and 3 and 4 is absolutely terrible. Okay, so this is the process that I used to work out which shims I need to get. So I pull each shim out of the engine with a magnet, clean it off with a bit of paper just to get, because they're all covered in oil. So it's basically just to get rid of the oil off of each of the shims, make them nice and clean. And then I look for a little gap that's in the side of the shims, which is just there.
And that's where I can get a bit of, and I'm using a bit of brake cleaner here just to spray, and it just breaks up the oil that's beneath the shim and the cup, and I can get a little screwdriver in there and I can just pry the two apart like that. Put the cup to one side, and again just wipe off the shim so that I can clean it all up, because I want to write on the bottom of that what the thickness is. Some of them it does actually say what's on them, but not all of them. So I'll just do a control measurement, and you can see on this one that it is 2.45 millimeters thick. So I'll just make a note of that with a pen on the bottom of it, so that I can use that one for later reference. So I now know that that one is 2.45 millimeters thick, so I'm going to add that into my calculator here. So we're putting in 2.45 millimeters, and then I need to add on the difference now that needs to be added onto that shim. So I'll look at my piece of paper, find out what it needs to be, and we're going to add on 0.13 millimeters. Give me the new shim measurement of 2.58. So I need to find the shim that says 2.58 on it, put that back on the cup, and that shim is ready to go back in the engine. And we do the next, and the next, and the next.
See if this starts then. See what it sounds like. Right, so that's the tappet set, and the engine sounds a lot better. There is still a ticking noise, which I'm kind of expecting there to be, but I think that is coming from the injectors. You'll always get a bit of a ticking noise from the injectors, especially on these engines, but it sounds a lot quieter. So now I've got a couple more things to do. I need to sort my seatbelts out. I can't seem to find them, so I need to find them. I need to sort out the tank sender, because I don't know how much fuel I've got. I need to also sort out the indicators that aren't working for some reason, don't know why. So we need to find out what's wrong with that, and then we can take this for a proper test drive. So we're going to start off by checking the cables at the back of the indicator stalk to see whether I've got lives and earths, and to see if I can power up any of the cables to see what the problem is, and we'll see what we can do. I know that the hazard's working, but the indicators on the stalk aren't working, so I have to find out what's wrong with them. And we're going to start off with one of these tools, which is a tester tool. Really useful. You connect it up to the positive and negative of the battery, and then I can add power, or I can add an earth to things. I can also test if there is a power or if there's an earth there, and it's got a built-in fuse here. So really useful tool. It comes with an enormously long cable. So I'm going to try now and see. I'm going to see what I've got for power and earths to the back of the switch, and try and find out what's wrong with it. So basically what's happening with the ignition on, I'm not getting any indicators, but I am getting the hazard lights. So I don't really know quite why. So with the test tool, I can put the cable on the wires and I can test that the wires are working. But eventually I've traced it down to what I believe to be a dodgy contact on the relay. This one especially, which is the power from the hazard light switch, didn't seem to be very tight on the relay. So I've cut the plug off, put new plugs on it, and it seems to work now. So now I've got the indicators working again. Take the rear bench out to change the rear back of it, or to paint the rear back, the metal part of the back seat. When I took that out, I took the rear bench out at the bottom there, and I found the cable wasn't connected to the tank, and I also found all the parts to the seat belts that I was looking for. So now I've got seat belts and I've got a fuel tank. So that kind of means that the car is now legal enough for me to take on the open road. I have been driving it on a private road beforehand just to get the car tested, but now it's time for me to take it for a proper road test. The fuel gauge is saying almost empty. I don't know whether that's the fuel gauge not reading properly or if it is actually empty in the tank. So I'm going off to the local fuel station, which is about, well, it's nearly 9 kilometers away from here. I'm going to fill it with fuel to see if the fuel gauge is working or not. Right, I'm back from my road test. I drove 9 kilometers there and got towed 9 kilometers back again. As soon as I came out the petrol station, I turned right and that's where she died, basically. And from what I could kind of diagnose at the side of the road, the low pressure fuel pump has died. Stopped working. Right, so I took the cover back off again, and it looks like the low pressure pump has definitely died. It's not making a noise. I've took the power probe and put it on the power cable here. Now the high pressure pump does start, the low pressure pump doesn't. We've checked earth, it's got a good earth, so the pump has died. So now I need to get a new pump. Happy days. So I have to get a new pump now. So that's 2 steps forward and 1 step back yet again. So I think I'm going to end this video there and I'm going to go on holiday. Well, we already had a holiday planned, but I'm going to go on holiday now anyway. So I'll be sorting this out in a few weeks' time when I get back off of my holiday. During my holiday, I'm going to find a new fuel pump for it. While on holiday, I will be visiting Silverstone for the Ford show there. So if anybody sees me there, come up, say hello, give us a shout. So I'm going to wind this up here now and I'm going to go and look for pumps, I suppose. No, I'm going to go and pack a suitcase. So if you want to see me getting this back on the road again, press that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot and bye-bye.